Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Invictus Racing League PlayStation Formula 4 League for round 4 of the Japanese Grand Prix. I hope you've all had a great day and a great evening, and I hope it will just get better as you watch some of the driving tonight and hopefully enjoy some of the action that the F4 drivers will provide for you tonight. You are joined today just by myself, Andre, who is making up a one-man commentary team. And it is also my debut commentary, so hopefully that all goes well. And as always, a one-man commentary team is a bit difficult, and I will try to give everyone some equal screen time, and I do apologize in advance if any action on track is missed. So speaking of screen time, finally, the Formula 4 guys are getting some of that screen time that they really duly deserve. They have had some really action-packed races. They've had one in Australia, which seemed like a routine and normal dry race, but turned out that in the last few laps, the heavens above Melbourne opened up, and the drivers were greeted with some rain, perhaps not so pleasantly, and they had to contend with those conditions, with most of them being on very worn slicks, which made it quite challenging. One driver managed to go from 10th to 3rd. During the race, in the last few stages of the race actually, and another managed to go from 14th to 1st during the race. So if that doesn't give you an idea of how chaotic it was, then I don't know what does. So yeah, like I said, these guys never fail to produce an action-packed race, so they do keep the viewers on their toes and themselves as well. So once again, if you do enjoy the live stream tonight, do make sure to leave a like. Let's aim for 10 likes tonight. If we can reach that goal by the end of the evening, then that would be absolutely brilliant. Do subscribe to Invictus Racing League on YouTube to stay up to date with all of our live streams. We have 4 races hosted tonight, and tomorrow we are taking to Japan for the last time with the Realistic Performance League, where the drivers, as per the name, are driving in slightly different parameters, and will have their car performances restricted and gauged based on the actual performance of the F1 2020 cars. So yeah, it's not always the fastest drivers that win there, and it's always an interesting format to watch. And do make sure you follow Invictus Racing League on our social media platforms, on Twitter, where we are Invictus RL, and on Instagram and Facebook, where we are Invictus Racing League, to stay up to date with all things Invictus. So just as the lobby starts here, and we begin the race, I'd just like to keep you guys up to date with some driver changes that we've had recently. So from his impressive performance in Australia, the French driver Pascal Ducel has moved up to Formula 3, and he has left a space vacant at Ferrari, which has been taken by Doiji 669. Who moves into the Ferrari seat alongside Racing Tej. And it'll be interesting if they can carry on their form tonight, because they are currently second in the championship, just 18 points behind the leaders, Mercedes. And yeah, they've had some good point tolls over the races, some quite consistent finishes between the two drivers. So we'll see if they can carry that on tonight, and hopefully propel themselves a little bit closer to that first position of the constructors, which will be helped out a little bit because Brennan's, one of the Mercedes drivers, isn't actually taking part tonight. So that will hopefully take away some of the weight off of their shoulders tonight. So that free spot of Renault will be taken by Craig, who returns from the F3 League, and I've heard he's returning with new hardware, which will be interesting to see. I can speak from experience that new hardware is very difficult to get used to. Throwing yourself into the dark and into the unknown can be quite daunting for some of the drivers. So yeah, we'll see how he adjusts to that, and hopefully he can throw up some good results for us tonight, and get himself up into his race results, maybe up on the podium, if we're lucky to see him there. And alongside him will be another new driver making his debut in IRL, Aldino. So yeah, slightly less experienced, but hopefully the combination of him and Craig will be able to get some good point finishes tonight. Also, another new driver we have making their debut in IRL will be Nelly295, who will be joining Prezi Boy in the Alfa Romeo car, and hopefully they will be having some good points finishes tonight as well. With Prezi, slightly more experience than Nelly, but we will see what happens between them. So, on to the elephant in the room, the track, of course, Suzuka. Rather tricky and technical, as we'll see. It's not the first F1 track that has been visited in Japan, as Racing Tage retires there. That was actually Fuji in 1976 and 77. And in 1987, Suzuka made its debut, and it was designed by John Hugenholtz, initially as a Honda test track. And I can tell you for sure that it definitely will test the cars tonight. It's a tricky circuit, like I said, 5.8 kilometers or 3.6 miles with one DRS straight along the pit straight. So that's going to be difficult for the drivers to try and keep that 1 second gap between themselves, and then take advantage of that DRS straight into turn one. Drivers should be reaching speeds of around and upwards of 328 kilometers per hour or 203 miles per hour. And they'll be on the throttle for 66% of the lap. Will make around 48 gear changes with their paddles. So, yeah, a nice and technical track, providing all sorts of corners. High speed at the start with the famous Suzuka S section, hairpin, and some nice top speed you can get down the back straight past 130R as well. As Tennis Optional crosses the line to start his first banker lap, and we're going to be seeing a lot of the drivers do that now as they go out and start their laps. So the lap record, the last pole position was in 2019, which was set by Sebastian Vettel. Of course, we didn't visit the track in 2020, unfortunately, due to the pandemic. So he holds the last real F1 pole position with a 1:27.0. So hopefully we'll see some of the drivers getting close to that time or beating it today. As we see Nelly and Tin Man Z set their first banker laps. So Nelly setting on 1:29.5 on his debut for IRL. He will improve on that time, I am sure, through the session as the track conditions improve. You'll see that on the track it'll be quite interesting, because the first lap is always a bit skettish. The track is never at its best and optimal condition, so the drivers will be sliding around a little bit. But as the session continues, we will hopefully see some of the lap times improve, and by great margins. So Tennis Optional currently on provisional pole with a 1:27.6, sorry, already close to Vettel's time there in 2019. So the Red Bull driver, alongside Sir Spud, they find themselves in 7th in the Constructors currently. And they are drawing in points with the guys ahead of them, Racing Point. So it will be interesting to see if they can do anything to mix up the results. Possibly get some podiums, as Brennan's isn't here tonight. So maybe they can take advantage of his absence. Another person who will be wanting to take advantage of his absence is probably F1 Richard, his teammate. So he hasn't been able to score a podium this season yet, but he has been gradually improving through the tracks from Mexico to Russia. So hopefully we can see him improve and maybe get a podium tonight. Craig in 5th position with a 1:28.4. He's making his first season appearance here, season 12 in F4, with some of that new hardware, so he is adjusting to that nicely. Currently in 5th position, nicely putting himself up there among the drivers for their banker laps. So with 11 and a bit minutes to go now, we've got 10 drivers who've already set their first banker laps there. Yeah, it's looking like a good start for IRL. So far, not too eventful qualifying, but hopefully we'll see something else in the race. So far, Tinnis Optionel keeping his provisional pole with his 127.6, and he's headed into the pit lane there. So, yeah, a fast time so far from him, and hopefully he will improve on that through the session, and we should see that from all of the drivers. And now we're on board with Joe Hamster, 9, who should just be finishing off his lap, I believe, and he's done a 127.889, a very nice lap from himself there. He's in the AlphaTauri alongside Daryl Whiffen, who finds himself in 7th with a 128.8. So currently, AlphaTauri are in 5th in the constructors' standings, just behind the McLaren drivers of Tin Manzi and O. Steven. And they've had some good points finishes so far. Best was in Russia, bringing in 10 points for the team. So hopefully they can really make their way up the constructors today, and maybe they will be the ones to take advantage of Brennan's absence today as well. So yeah, again, most of the drivers getting their laps set. I imagine maybe a few having some invalidations. There are a few places around Japan that you can invalidate in quite easily. So the last corner you can cut out a bit too much of it, and you can find yourself invalidating there, or equally going a bit wide at some of the very high-speed corners, such as Degna 1 and Degna 2, which hopefully we should see if we get the track map up. So yeah, there are some pretty tricky corners around Suzuka to negotiate, so it'll be interesting to see what the drivers do. And just now I've got the tyre telemetry up there for you guys. So Craig has set his 128.4 on the medium tyres, which is very interesting. So a few drivers opting for the medium tyres to try and start on that alternate strategy. We'll see if that's really worth it. Sometimes in F4 it is, so you can see a little bit of a mix-up between the medium runners and the soft runners throughout the race. So hopefully we'll see some alternate strategies there being played within the top 10. And of course, if you qualify outside the top 10, then you get your free choice of tyre. So we'll see them starting probably on the medium tyres and playing the alternate strategy, maybe going onto the soft tyres at the end of the race. And I have received news that the qualifying and the race are both dry for the drivers tonight, so I'm sure a lot of them will be very happy with that. The weather is not going to cause any problems for them tonight, as Nelly sets the fastest time of the session so far with a 127.6 on the soft tyres. So already the track improving quite a bit. He's improved his lap a lot from his banker, which is great to see. So looking good for Alfa Romeo so far. So a lot of the drivers coming into the pit lane now, still a few out on track. I wonder if I can get on board. With Prezi here, who is going for his second lap of the session, also on the soft tyres. We'll see what he can do. Maybe get up there with his teammate as well. That would be brilliant for Alfa Romeo tonight. If you're enjoying what you're seeing so far, as always, make sure to subscribe to Invictus Racing League to not miss any more of this action. Like I said before, we should be seeing some of the boys tomorrow take to the track in realistic performance. And next week is Monza, so do be sure to tune in for that. And do leave a like if you're enjoying the stream so far. Make sure to follow Invictus Racing League on Twitter, where we are Invictus IRL, and on Instagram and Facebook. So, 6 minutes to go in the session. Plenty of lap times coming in, plenty of improvements for the drivers. Still on board with Prezi here. He's heading down the back straight of Suzuka, very high speed section, and he'll be just going through 130R now, which is planted, foot to the floor, and the Casio triangle finally, which is a tricky chicane. You can gain a lot of time here and lose a lot as well, and it's really important to try and get a good launch out of there, hug the inside, and go across the line. He sets a 128.0, which is enough to get him 6th, and among some of the drivers here. Oh, Stephen, both of the McLarens actually out for their runs right now. I wonder if they'll be giving each other a tow. I don't think so. They're on different parts of the track as of now. But one of them on the soft tyres, one of them opting for the soft tyres, and one of them opting for the mediums. So it will be interesting to see what times they can get. And now you can see, just about now, the soft guys are splitting themselves apart from the medium runners. And you can see that just from pure pace, pure traction, that the soft tyres give you a little bit more, just that little bit more pace. And maybe we'll see some of those medium guys switch out to the soft tyres at the end for their last runs, see if they can set some improve on their times. Tim Manzi sets a 128.3, he's in 10th currently. But if you do start outside the top 10, as I said before, you can always opt for that alternate strategy, which is pretty powerful around here. And since there is no rain, it's very viable to do, going from the medium to the soft tyres. The rest of the drivers on the soft tyres should be doing a softer medium strategy or a softer hard. Softer hards obviously being a little bit more cautious, should I say, and the mediums a little bit faster, but you'll find that on the mediums towards the end of the race you'll be getting quite a bit of wear on them, around 70%, so it will be quite difficult to keep up with traction towards the end of the race and manage those tyres. So maybe we'll see some of the hard runners catch up to them and overtake them towards the end as the pace between the tyres levels out. So Tim Manzi, I believe, is going for another lap straight away to try and improve that time. But everyone else staying in the pit lane, waiting for their last runs as the timer in the session counts down. And Tim Manzi just heading through the Casio triangle right now. Will he be setting another lap, or will he be going to the pit lane? He will be going to the pit lane, so he must have not improved there as much as he would have liked. Craig, another driver on an out lap, and he has opted for the soft tyres, so he did end up choosing them in the end. Clearly worth it in his mind to try and improve on that time that he set with the mediums, try and get himself a little bit further up the grid. So hopefully we'll see that tonight. The only other driver on the grid is Towley, and currently Daryl Whiffen. Towley in the Williams, he is partnered with TJW77, who is in 8th place currently with a 128.1. And they are currently 9th in the constructors, but they've got it all to play for in the race. Pretty technical track, so anything can happen, especially here in F4. We do see a lot of action, we do see a lot of safety cars, so maybe we can see some of these drivers score some points for their teams and get themselves up those constructor standings. So currently Nelly still leading the session with a 127.6. But that may well be beaten by some other drivers. It must be said that it is Nelly's debut in IRL, so he is doing a very good job at the top so far on provisional pole. And now we're seeing a lot of drivers go out on track for their final laps. F1 Richard coming out, we have TJW, and Joe Hamster as well, who finds himself in 4th position with a 127.8 on a fresh set of softs. We'll see what he can do, and we'll see if he can improve that time. So we have some support in the comment sections for Joe, Hamster, and Daryl. So some good AlphaTauri support in the Invictus comment section. Once again, if you'd like to get involved, do check us out on the YouTube channel and do get involved in the comment section with the race. If you have any predictions or anything you want to say, then please do, and I will happily enjoy some of that input and get involved with it as well. So, Joe Hamster on his lap, currently going through Sector 2, and he's about to hit the, well, hopefully not hit, but get through very nicely through the spoon curve. It's very crucial to get a good launch off of here onto the back straight, 3:1:30. It can mean everything in your lap time there around spoon, and you really have to try and hug that inside curb there to really minimize all your time lost through that corner. A foot planted, 3:1:30R, and negotiating the Casio triangle again. Very nicely done by Joe Hamster there. Will he be able to improve on his time? Yes, he will, and he will go to provisional pole with a 1:27.5. Nelly is still in the pit lane, so I don't imagine him to be challenging for pole position anytime soon. Tennis Option now is starting his final lap with 14 seconds to go in the session, so we will see if he can make any improvements this time and get anywhere near that pole position. Doiji on his outlap there. Oh, naughty from Doiji there, trying to get to the start line before the session ends, so he won't be able to make that, but he is in 4th position with a 1:27.7. Eric Pancakes is just finishing off his lap in the Racing Point. Racing Point find themselves in 6th position in the standings. They didn't score any points in Russia, so hopefully they can score some points tonight. And just as we speak of that, Eric Pancakes goes across the line and he sets a 1:27.4. Very good lap so far on provisional pole, but not everyone is done quite yet. As Tennis Option now going through the spoon curve, touching that inside curve just a little bit too much, and he gets a little bit too much rotation from the rear end, a little bit of sliding from him there, so he might lose out quite a bit of time on his lap, but he could still improve for all we know. And TJW setting a 27.5, getting up into 2nd place. Tennis Option now has gone into pit lane, so he hasn't improved enough there from him. And everyone in the pit lane apart from Prezi Boy, who's just heading through the Casio triangle chicane right there, and hopefully we'll see him improve this time a little bit as well. He's currently in 10th position with a 1:28.8. What can he do? He goes into 7th with a 1:27.7. Very close between himself, Doiji, and Maldino, and in fact very close between all of the drivers tonight. The top, I believe, well, almost all of the drivers split by just about a second there today, which is really impressive to see. So, very close grid tonight, some good competition, a dry race for these guys, so hopefully we can see some close battles and get some good action in the race. So, I'll run you through the qualifying order there. Eric Pancakes lines up on pole position with a 1:27.4 in the Racing Point, followed by TJ in the Williams to finish off the front row of the grid. Joe Hamster in the AlphaTauri lines up in 3rd, with Nelly making his IRL debut, very impressive, in 4th position. Tennis Option now in 5th, Doiji in 6th, Prezi Boy in 7th, Aldino, another driver making a debut, in 8th, nicely in the top 10. F1 Richard in 9th, with Daryl Whiffen in 10th, O-Steve in 11th and 12th, with Tintman Z, the McLaren teammates together. Craig in 13th, Towley in 14th, Suspard in 15th, Ronanosaurus in 16th. So, nice qualifying session from the guys right there, nice and close. They've got 27 laps of the race, and it'll be interesting to see some of the strategies that they will be using today. A bit cloudy, bit overcast today for the race, but no rain scheduled, so once again should be dry. We should be seeing primarily the soft to medium strategy being played here. The mediums can make it to the end. They will be very worn by the end, which of course makes the softs to hard strategy very viable as well. And the hards and mediums will cross over towards the end of the race as the mediums start to wear to a significant percentage. And then the guys starting outside the top 10, they could opt for the mediums, they could opt for the hard tyres. Again, you can be cautious and go for the hards, or you could be a little bit more adventurous and go for those medium tyres and see if you can maybe stretch them towards the end of the race where you can get onto the soft tyres and finish off the race on those softs. It'll be interesting to see how the drivers deal with the first few laps here as well. The dirty air can be a bit distracting, but you do have to try and stay within that 1 second gap of the driver ahead of you a lot of the time if you want to stay within that DRS range. And that is really critical around Suzuka because you can lose all of the time in the corners. And it only really has one DRS straight, so you have to take full advantage of it. It'll be interesting to see any teamwork as well. I can point out the McLaren teammates in 12th and 11th respectively. So it'll be interesting to see if we see any position switches from them, if they race each other nicely, or they have a bit of a rivalry and a bit of a close battle today. So all to play for in Japan, 27 laps of the race. And anything can happen within those 27 laps. So the drivers really do need to look out for that. So now, just warming up their tyres. Let me get the telemetry up for you here, just so we can see the tyres actually. And yes, all of the drivers outside of the top 10 have gone onto the medium tyre compound. So they have thought of that. And they deem it to be a better option than the soft tyres. So it'll be, we'll probably see them take over the race. We'll see them take over the lead and go to the front of the pack when the soft runners pit around lap 9 and 10, if they can stretch it that far, that is. So now they're finishing off their formation lap. The drivers have a 405-meter run to the first turn from their starting position. So all to play for from the beginning as well, right from the beginning of the race. But of course, we'll see a lot of drivers being cautious as well. 27 laps in the race, so it's important not to risk it all at the beginning and then lose everything. Drivers now lining up onto the grid, getting ready to start the Formula 4 Round 4 League at Japan in Suzuka. Let's see what they can do tonight for us. As the back of the grid lines up here, the drivers looking at the lights to get started. 405-meter run to turn 1, everything to play for with 27 laps to go. And now the drivers got 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights ahead of them. And it is lights out and away they go. Joe Hamster there with a really good start compared to the guys around him. He's almost onto the grass there as he tries to avoid them. A little bit of shuffling towards the back, and he's gone very wide out of turn 1 onto the green stuff there. That'll really slow him down. He has to let some drivers through there, and a lot of the drivers going wide are out of turn 1 there, as we have Doiji and Prezi Boy fighting through the S section, really giving it all already on the first lap, but they do decide to back out. Doiji does decide to back out of that one, not risking it all right at the beginning. So Spud, with a good start onto the mediums, he's already made a bit of an impression on some of the soft runners there, and we almost saw a side-by-side there through Degnan 1 and 2. But so far, drivers sticking behind each other for the most part. We have Aldino, I think, making a move down the inside of Sir Spud. Can he make it stick round the outside of the hairpin? A nice and slow overtaking spot. We'll hopefully see the drivers using that a little bit today. And he does make it stick. He gets the move done on Sir Spud. Sir Spud, of course, on the medium tyres. We'll hopefully see them come into play a little bit later into the race. So he won't quite be on the just as quick as the soft tyre runners. But it's all going well. And Joe Hamster there falling down the order back of the grid. I think he must have had a poor exit out of the spoon curve. He is losing a lot of positions. Of course, not a great start from him. He started in third and now he's tumbled slowly down the order to 10th position. I wonder if he's got any damage. Doesn't look like it so far, but still all to play for. Plenty of time left in the race to go. Nelly in third position as we have another driver falling a little bit back down the order. Not really sure who that is, but Nelly, oh no, it's a timing glitch. Apologies. So Nelly is actually in 9th himself. Eric Pancake still leading the race though. He's now built a 1.7 second gap over to Ernest Optional, which will be very good for him. And F1 Richard is sticking on with the race. Apologies for this timing glitch. I'm losing track of the race as much as you are. But it is what it is on this game sometimes. But no, okay, now we have the final positions. So I was right. Nelly was in third place, and he's running currently 4 tenths to the Williams ahead of him. We'll see if he can make any moves on him. Perhaps he'll want to stick with him for this lap. The DRS will be enabled. And then he might be able to use him to tow his way to Eric Pancakes if he's quick enough. Or if he's not, he might choose to get rid of him right away and make his own charge for the lead. So yeah, once again, a good start for the driver on his debut. Doiji behind Prezi Boy and F1 Richard here. A nice battle for 5th place, all nice and close to each other. McLaren teammates at the back, both starting on a medium. They've had a decent start, not losing any positions. So they've kept themselves there as we've had a spin at the final turn, and it is TJW. Such a shame. He was having a very good race in 2nd place so far, and unfortunately the pressure must have got to him. But we'll see a lot of drivers struggling with that final corner. It's very easy to spin yourself out on the curb, so he has unfortunately lost a lot of time, a lot of positions there, but maybe he can get himself back into the race, perhaps with a pit stop or another, by any other means. Racing Tej sticking behind Craig. There's a nice train of medium runners, which is split up by Joe Hamster, who's had a bogged down a little bit with the first few laps of the Grand Prix. But he's now on the back of Sir Spud, and he's going to go down the inside of Sir Spud. Oh, and just a bit of contact there between the two drivers. Sir Spud tried to leave him some room there on the hairpin, but it was a little bit difficult from his position. He was already hitting the apex of his turn, so it would have been quite difficult for him to leave space for the AlphaTauri driver. So the AlphaTauri challenging the Red Bull here. He was very close to him, and he might have another go next lap, we will see. But speaking of someone who's going to have a go, it will have to be O'Steven behind him, one of the McLaren drivers on the medium tyres, and he's going to try and go to the outside line for the Casio triangle, trying to get the move done on Joe Hamster, but he doesn't quite get that done. A little bit of contact between the drivers, but I'm sure that's all fine. I reckon Joe Hamster is beginning to struggle a little bit with his soft tyres. He's been going wide a little bit, losing a little bit of traction we saw in some of the corners, so perhaps his tyres are a little bit too long, and perhaps some of the medium runners are getting the advantage of that tyre on them. Racing Tej sticking nicely with Craig here, and he is really trying to narrow down that gap to him. It looks like he might be able to overtake him within the next few laps. The gap is very small, and his pace is good so far. He's getting close to Craig. Perhaps he can try and move into the hairpin. Degner 1 and 2, you have to be really careful through. If you brake later than your opponent in front of you, you will surely go into the back of him and possibly damage your front wing. He thinks about going for a move, but he doesn't quite do it, and Townley has retired by the side of the track. I wonder if that was a crash, it probably was. He must have lost it on the exit of Degner 2, and this is a full-on safety car for the guys here at Formula 4. So that is rather interesting. Yes, he did. Looks like he did lose it there by himself. His tyres come off the car, so that's an unfortunate incident for him. Williams, guys, not having the greatest of starts to the race so far, but with a safety car, it'll be interesting to see whether anything can happen. We have some contact between two drivers there during the safety car. Joe Hamster, his woes get worse and worse during the race. He's lost some positions, and now some contact with another driver has caused him to gain a 5-second penalty. So he's going to be going into the pit lane. I assume he's got some damage on the front wing. Oh, and he's making some contact with Aldino there, braking very late. You have very small margins when you're sim racing like this, but hopefully not as small as that. But a lot of drivers going into the pit lane. So a lot of them going onto hard tyres. The medium runners, of course, staying out. They still have a lot of life left in their tyres. Eric Pancakes has gone onto the medium tyres, so he thinks he can make it to the end. Bold move from him, but we will see. Perhaps he's hoping for yet another safety car later on, and seeing what he can do. The only driver who hasn't pitted so far is Nelly, and he's making his IRL debut in first position. He is on 4-lap old soft tyres, sticking behind the safety car. We'll see if he can get an advantage, if he can get a better start than the medium runners. It's a bit more difficult to keep temperature in the medium tyres after a safety car restart, so they'll have to be swerving a little bit harder than the soft runner here, but perhaps his tyres are getting quite warm towards this side, towards this point in the race. So maybe we'll see the medium runners taking advantage of that, but perhaps not Sir Spud. He might have to overtake him and try and build as much of an advantage as he can. Because he has a penalty. So he is either going to have to serve it in the pit lane or try and negate that time penalty in race distance. But yes, a lot of the drivers going into the pit lane. It's always a little bit awkward going into the pit lane, particularly if your teammate is going in as well. You don't want to be held up. So perhaps that's why Nelly didn't go into the pit lane. Perhaps they are coordinating this, for all we know. This is league racing after all. That is what often happens. So maybe that is why Nelly didn't go into the pit lane. Maybe he didn't want to lose all of that time in the pit lane to his teammate, who would have held him up a little bit. But so far, leading the race nicely in the soft tyres. But everyone from racing stage downwards has indeed pitted for fresh tyres. Doiji as well has gone onto the medium tyres, so he is planning to go to the end on those, I assume, as well. But of course the two-stopper is still viable for these drivers if they wish to go onto the soft tyres at the end. But we will see what is going on. A few penalties coming through for the drivers, getting a little bit frisky through the S section here. So very close. I assume some drivers slowing down to try and swerve, maybe make a gap to the driver ahead, and there is a little bit of a problem there. But other than that, it is all fairly orderly, and hopefully the safety car will be coming in this lap. All the drivers have joined now to the back of the grid. The AlphaTauri guys now, they have gone onto the hard tyres for Joe Hamster. He's still got a penalty there, and Daryl Whiffen's on the soft tyres, interestingly. So he will definitely be going for some kind of two-stopper there. But they really need to try and score as many points as they can tonight. Really get themselves up that up those constructors' standings. Potentially challenge McLaren, which, by the looks of it, right now, isn't going to be happening, as the McLaren guys are much further ahead. But we'll see how the strategies will play out a little bit later on into the race, and for all we know, the AlphaTauri guys may get them in the end. And they are only 2 points behind their McLaren rivals in the constructor standings. So that could well, they could well see a little bit of a shuffle up this race. So heading to the front of the grid, the safety car is coming in this lap. So Nelly is leading the pack, and he is going to be dictating the pace of the field on the restart. As soon as that flag goes green, he will be able to stomp it down and get his way going into turn 1, getting as much of an advantage as he can, which he is doing now, into overtake. And now for the restart, the drivers heading down into turn 1. What can they do? Some nice gaps here between the medium runners, but no side-by-side action yet. We've had a pit stop from F1 Richard already, so perhaps he had damage, or perhaps he's serving a penalty of some kind in the pit lane there. So far, very orderly from the drivers there. The racing point of Ronanosaurus getting very close to Tin Man Z there in the McLaren. So the gap there building up. Plenty of places to make a move from. And still a few more laps to go before DRS is enabled. But he's not going to wait for that DRS. He looked a little bit down, Tin Man Z, but he had it covered off quite nicely there. No space to go for a move. So he won't make the move there into this turn. It's a little bit difficult through that corner to try and get that traction on your rival out of Degna 2, sorry, and then just try and find that gap, squeeze your way through it, and make the move. So a lot of these drivers brave and going for that move, but if you position your car well, which is what Tim Manzi had done, then he will be able to defend his position quite nicely there. Craig getting nice and close to the AlphaTauri of Joe Hamster there. He's moved up to 11th after F1 Richard and Prezi Boy both pitted. Joe Hamster getting slightly wide at 130R, and now he's been put under pressure by the likes of Craig, who is now right onto the back of him. He's all over the back of him, in fact. And we're going to be seeing if he can make a move on Joe Hamster down into turn 1. He's using up his overtake. He's going to the inside line, and that should be a nice and easy overtake for Craig into turn 1. And he goes up into 11th onto the hard tyres. Good job from him. If he makes any more of those, then he'll soon find himself into the points. Ronanosaurus staying very close to Racing Tej, who I believe has had a little bit of a mishap there because the McLarens have got through. O'Stephen now in 3rd position, Tim Manzi in 4th. And the Racing Point cars fighting there through Degna 1 and 2. Not sure if they were letting each other through or fighting there, but that was interesting to see. Eric Pancakes trying to hold it round the outside of Degna 1. Very brave there from him. But either way, we've seen a switch up from the Racing Point teammates. So maybe we'll see Eric Pancakes challenging the Ferrari soon enough for 5th place, and then potentially getting to the McLarens a little bit later on, as Craig is getting very close to his teammate as well. Potentially a shuffle up here at Renault. Through the spoon curve they go, side by side, and Aldino there just going to have to, well, he's going to concede to a teammate, or what it looks like, but now he's not conceding. He's using some of that overtake. He was using some of that overtake to try and stay with Craig. Now he's turned it off. I think he thinks better of it there. So Craig will get ahead of Aldino. And Craig making some good pace on the hard tyres as Joe Hamster decides to take advantage of Aldino's exit from the Casio Triangle, and so does a few other drivers, and he's been hit into the wall there at the final turn. So not very polite for him on his debut, but a little bit unfortunate for the driver here. Let Craig through, and then he slowed down at the Casio Triangle and found himself into the wall as some drivers just tried to get past him and tapped him. Really unfortunate. It does sometimes happen here. The track is quite narrow, so you do see some close racing, and sometimes that close racing does result in a little bit of contact there, and unfortunately sometimes you do get damage. That will slow him down a lot this race, so he will probably pit for damage there. He's got a considerable amount of damage on the car. You can see him struggling around the circuit. There, Craig now catching up to Tinus Optionel. He is absolutely, he's cutting his way through the hard runners, slowly making his way up the field, and he'll be on the medium guys soon enough. So putting pressure on Tinus Optionel. We have an interesting little battle here for 7th position between these 4 drivers, with Doiji separating them with a penalty. So perhaps he will be looking to make a move on that racing point, clear him as soon as possible, and then really try and make a gap to him, so he doesn't have as bad of an effect with that time penalty. So he's getting nice and close to the racing point here, who switched with his teammate a few laps earlier. His red light's blinking. He knows he's low on ERS, but so is Doiji. He is not very high on ERS either, but he is going to be taking the outside line into turn 1, nice and easy. The racing point, they're not fighting it too much, and he gets up into 7th, which is good for him, because he is going to be, as Tin Manzi's gone round. He's gone around. Unfortunately, I don't know if that was contact or not, or just by himself. He has unfortunately spun around on those medium tyres. Looks like he has some, and a little bit of contact with a Williams driver there as well. Looks like he had some contact, dust patches or mud on his left front tyre. So perhaps he made his way onto the gravel there, or onto the grass, and then spun himself around. But he has got front wing damage from that Williams as well. That race it was going so well for Tin Manzi in the 4th position on the alternate strategy. He had it all to play for, and then unfortunately he didn't quite get that all sorted out. But Craig trying to make a move down the inside of Roninosaurus. Plenty of action here at F4, like I said at the beginning, and unfortunately Sebastian Vettel-esque, he has slightly spun around there after that contact with Roninosaurus, and he has gone into the wall there as well. I feel like I'm cursing a bit too many people tonight. I said he was doing well, and unfortunately he is now retired from the race. That is very unfortunate to see for Craig. He was having a great race, like I said, and then unfortunately contact there, and it can all be over. Tin Manzi diving into the pit lane there for repairs on his front wing. So he will be getting repairs. Nelly as well dived into the pit lane. He's gone onto the hard tyres now to the end of the race. So he decided to stay out in the safety car, and he stretched out his soft tyre stint a little bit longer, and he really did gain an advantage on some of the guys up ahead. So he did build some of the gap to the medium runners, and now onto the soft tyres, hard tyres, sorry, he should be able to make it nicely to the end of the race, with plenty of spare tyre capacity there, and Tin Manzi as well onto the hard tyres after his front wing change. He will be looking to go to the end of the race as well himself. Steven, his teammate, however, is getting nicely onto the back of Spud, who does have a time penalty. So he's been put under pressure by Steven, both of them on same lap wear tyres, medium tyres, and Steven looking possibly to make a move onto Spud in the next few laps. You could stay behind him and use that time penalty towards the end of the race, but of course it is lap 1, and he does have Eric Pancakes behind him, and he doesn't want him to be gaining any kind of advantage onto him. So if he can get clear of Spud, then that would be great, which he is going to do into turn 1 with an overtake, but Spud braking very late, using the outside line there to defend, and he swoops round, keeping his position in first place, getting very close there between the two drivers here. And Steven, he almost made the move down the inside stick, but Spud just swooped round with that extra traction around the outside. So Steven perhaps will have to try in a little bit later some kind of move, as Tennis Optionel has dropped down a little bit there onto the hard tyres. His steering looks quite heavy, so I assume he's got some front wing damage there. Unfortunately, on his Red Bull, there you can see the front right part of the front wing is heavily battered. So he's going onto the gravel there. He's desperately trying to get around to the pit lane to try and potentially get that repaired. That will slow him down a lot as the race progresses. So once again, a lot of drivers who were doing well at the beginning, and coincidentally a lot of the drivers that I said were doing well at the beginning, have now had some kind of unfortunate incident. So perhaps I shouldn't be making those comments. Let them race, Andre. Just let them race. Anyhow, Joe Hamster, he's the highest hard tyre runner in the grid so far, in 7th position. He's running a penalty, and he is trying to chase down his teammate Darrell Whiffen, who's on the soft tyres. Might not happen, because his teammate is on the softer compound and will be just that little bit quicker. but his teammate has decided to go to the pit lane. So he did go onto the softs after the safety car. An interesting strategy choice there from him. He's decided to go onto the medium tyres, as Sinus Optional gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So he will most certainly be going to the end of the race on those medium tyres. So we have a little bit of a gap forming between 6th and 4th here, but the top 3 firmly holding their pace. And they are starting to pull away from the rest of the grid a little bit here, onto the medium tyres. Eric Pancakes has caught up a lot in the last few laps though. He was about 1.4 seconds behind O'Steven a few laps ago, and now he's 4/10 behind him. So he's getting onto the back of him, and he might be able to dispatch of him soon. He too has a time penalty. So he will be wanting to get past O'Steven as soon as possible to try and create a gap so his time penalty doesn't cause any position losses at the end of the race. So still chasing down O'Steven, bringing down the gap a little bit there in his slipstream. Perhaps he will get a nice exit out of the Casio triangle here and make a move for O'Steven into turn 1, or perhaps he'll wait. So he's going to be using a little bit of that overtake, a little bit of DRS, but he will be choosing to stay behind him here, perhaps waiting for his moment to pounce. And O'Steven getting almost a little bit impatient behind Sespad. He wants to clear him a little bit. Clearly the pressure from Eric Pancakes is getting to him a little bit there as he goes a tiny bit wide at the S section. And unfortunately, the way that happens, the way that goes is you go wide at one corner of the S section, you will go wide at the next. And Eric Pancakes says thank you very much. He'll take advantage of that and he'll make his way up into 2nd position. So yeah, the S section can be really brutal there if you miss out on that little bit of space, or just miss the apex there, and you'll find yourself going wide for the next few corners as well. And Eric Pancakes there taking full advantage of that. But now of course the Spud's got a little bit of a gap to Eric Pancakes, 1.4 seconds, and he's broken his DRS range. So completely out of his DRS range now, he can make a little bit of a gap ahead of Eric Pancakes, if his tyres allow him to, of course, because Eric Pancakes is on slightly fresher medium tyres. So maybe he will catch up to him in the next few laps, which he is doing nicely on the straight there, using a little bit of overtake. So the race settling in now a little bit. We've got some nice gaps forming in the middle of the pack between each other. So still some battles at the back, however. We have Tennis Optional, who's on the soft tyres after his front wing damage earlier on, and he's going to be slicing his way through the field soon enough. He's coming back onto the back of Aldino here with the soft tyres, completely fresh. He's also got a time penalty as well. So quite a few of the drivers picking up some time penalties. He's going to want to overtake him as soon as possible, which he's going to do right here on the back straight into 130R. Through he goes, ahead of the Renault driver. Nicely done there from him. He will need to try and make the most of those soft tyres. Tim Manzi on the medium tyres. 2-lap hold here. He's going to be trying to make the move on Rhinosaurus, and it was nice and easy for him as well. Around the outside, Rhinosaurus didn't make it very difficult for him there, and Tim Manzi goes into 11th position. And a little bit hazy there through the S section in Suzuka, touching the curb a little bit. It can be a little bit deceptive, the track. Sometimes you can get away with using up a lot of the curb, and sometimes you can't. But as you'll find, as the race progresses and the tyre wear gets worse and worse, the more you touch that curb, the deadlier it will get for some of the drivers. So they will have to stay away from that. The medium runners at the front end now, having a significant amount of laps on their mediums, we'll see them slow down as the hard tyres become a little bit quicker in comparison to the mediums, of course, due to their sheer wear. But Tim Manzi settling in nicely between Prezi Boy and Rhinosaurus, and he is chasing down Prezi Boy. After that incident he had in the S section, he is keeping his head down and he is trying his best to make up those positions he lost. get McLaren some more points, is what he's trying to do as well. Just a little bit away from 10th, and he'll be getting a few points there for McLaren, and perhaps O'Stephen as well. Although you have to remember that some of these guys most of these guys are on the alternate strategy. So Eric Pancakes did pit during the safety car for a fresh set of mediums, but Sir Spud, O'Stephen and Racing Tej will be looking to pit probably within the next few laps as Rhinoceros loses it into the wall there. You could just see him to the right of the track. He has lost control of his car, perhaps touched the curbs a little bit there, and a bit of a shame for the Racing Point driver here. His teammate is in second place on the medium tyres, so he won't be getting any points for Racing Point, unfortunately, tonight. But hopefully his teammate can do something and negate for that difference. There is a virtual safety car as well, so the drivers will have to slow down and adhere to a pace, and they will have to be careful, and there will be some drivers taking advantage of that. Sir Spud, O'Stephen and Racing Tej, as well as Eric Pancakes, have all gone into the pit lane, so they've most of those drivers were on the alternate strategy, so they have almost all of them gone to the soft tyre to try and I assume now finish the race. Slightly unlucky timing there. I believe the VSC has ended now, so they've lost a little bit of time there in the pit lane, but other than that it was a good time to pit for them. So all of those drivers that have pitted there onto the soft tyres, so they'll be wanting to try and get 10 laps out of them, which is entirely possible, especially on these fresh sets. So they'll be nice and quick, pushing up the field to the likes of hopefully Nelly and maybe Joe Hamster. But we'll see if they can make their way through those gaps there on those fresh tyres. So yeah, some drivers taking nicely taking advantage of that VSC. So Spud, however, has lost a position to O'Stephen, so I wonder what went on there between the drivers. They both pitted, so perhaps a little bit of a switch up in the pit lane there for them. But Sir Spud has it all to play for on these fresh set of softs, so if you can stick with O'Stephen, I'm sure he'll find his way to the hard runners and the medium runners at the front soon enough. F1 Richard in the Mercedes. The Mercedes drivers are leading the Constructors' Championship at 48 points. His teammate, of course, isn't present today at the race, but he's going to be picking up some points today, hopefully, trying to keep that standing in the Constructors. But we don't know what will happen towards the end of the race. He's had a little bit of a calmer race here. He's got a nice gap to the drivers around him, so he's settling in quite nicely there as Tinus Optionel picks up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, exceeding track limits. He's pushing very hard in his soft tyres, I imagine, trying to get the most out of them he possibly can, and getting those time penalties, pushing the limits of the cars here. So far, 2 safety cars. We've had no bets in the comments or no predictions about the safety cars, which I'm sure we should have done for this race. It would have been interesting to see if any of you could have guessed it. And there's still 9 laps to go for another safety car opportunity. So still plenty of opportunity for these drivers to make their way through the grid here. Joe Hamster is currently leading the race because Doiji has headed into the pit lane. He's gone off the medium tyres and onto the soft tyres there. Perhaps his medium tyres were reaching the end of their tyre life there. So he will be going onto the soft tyres just like many of the other drivers there that were on the alternate strategy. And he's going to be trying to slice his way through the grid there, hopefully, and make his way up and he comes out just behind F1 Richard. Now, Ferrari and the Mercedes are currently title rivals here, as we have a yellow flag in Sector 1. Bear with me 1 minute. Oh, we have an AlphaTauri who has had some kind of, well, incident, I believe, there. He's gone off the track there, and I think he is letting some drivers through there. But he is, yeah, gone off the track a little bit there. Not sure what happened, again. But, yeah, not great for Daryl here on the medium tyres. Perhaps he's having a little bit of a problem. I think he's got some front wing damage, which is why he's letting through some of the quicker drivers. TJ there, he was taken completely by surprise. Locks up a little bit into the hairpin there. Perhaps he got a little bit of a surprise gift from the AlphaTauri there in the form of a position. And he was a bit too excited there through the hairpin. And speaking of getting a little bit exciting, Nelly is getting onto the back of Joe Hamster. He has got a, he's taken that gap down to about 3/10, and he's now putting the pressure onto Joe Hamster. If he can stick with him with this gap, then he will have the advantage of the DRS zone on the pit straight. So perhaps he can get him overtaken into the first turn. But so far, just sticking behind him nicely. A slightly fresher hard tyres. Both of these drivers will probably be looking to go to the end on these hard tyres. Unless, of course, any safety cars or anything occur. So they will be fighting it out for net position here. So will Nelly be able to get Joe Hamster anytime soon? We will have to see. Doiji there onto the soft tyres, coming onto the back of F1 Richard now. He's really putting the pressure onto the Mercedes driver. Title rivals here, so they will be fighting quite fiercely, I imagine, for this position. But of course, Doiji is on slightly fresher softs, so he will be getting onto the back of F1 Richard and maybe past him very soon. Nelly, back to Nelly again, who's getting very close to Joe Hamster, and just as I said, using the DRS straight to take advantage of it. He doesn't really need it, because he's almost past him before the DRS straight he even gets to use the DRS. So he's got past Joe Hamster there into turn 1, and Joe will have to stick behind Nelly for the foreseeable future. And he is on much more worn tyres. He has got a penalty, so we'll see if O'Steven can capitalise on that there. Doiji, again, into the pit lane for him. Has he got front wing damage? I wonder. Maybe he does. Can't really see here, but he is going to another set of tyres. I'm questioning his strategy now, but he's gone into a fresh set of softs. Perhaps he had front wing damage. I couldn't really see. But maybe that's the reason why he pitted. Or perhaps he is going for a flying lap. For the fastest lap of the race at the end. Not seeing much of the point of continuing in his position, although he was nicely in the points there. That takes a lot of pressure off of F1 Richard, but Tennis Optional is right back there to put that pressure back onto F1 Richard. He gains a lot of time there in the braking zone. Through the hairpin, oh, and he gets his throttle down a little bit too much there. He lights up his rear end, and he has spun around into the wall at the hairpin. Really unfortunate now. He has to let some drivers through before he comes back onto the track, and yeah, quite an eventful race for the Red Bull driver. He's had a lot happen to him, and it looks like his rear end is a little bit too excited this race. So he has seen a little bit of a few problems with that rear end, and he has got some considerable front wing damage, as you can see there, unfortunately, due to that incident. So he will be needing to pit again. Aldino, a driver on his debut, nicely into the points so far, and he is going to be trying to overtake the teammate of another debut driver, Prezi boy ahead of him, who did go to the inside line a little bit there to try and defend the position, going slightly wide, but Aldino is all onto the back of Prezi here, and Prezi with a penalty is feeling the pressure, and those hard tyres as well. Tinus Optional unfortunately retiring from the session. It is a day to forget for him. Eventful, but not in a fantastic way, unfortunately, and he will be retiring after that front wing damage, after that spin at the hairpin. So that is it for his race tonight, unfortunately. But his teammate, Sir Spud, is in 4th, so there's still plenty of points for Red Bull to get here. And potentially can make their way up the Constructors' standings. But Aldino still chasing down Prezi Boy here. So trying to maintain that gap and seeing if he can take advantage of the DRS straight at the end here. As always, if you are enjoying the race tonight, do make sure to subscribe to Invictus Racing League on YouTube. Press that like button. Let's try and reach that like goal of 10 likes by the end of the stream. And do make sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms, on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. And perhaps we'll be seeing you watching a few more of these races in the future for Formula 4 and all of the other leagues that Invictus Racing League has to provide. And if you would like to get involved, then please head over to invictusracingleague.com and look to apply to drive. There are still some free spots in some of the leagues, so you might get a place if you're lucky. And then you can join in some of the action that the drivers are having tonight, for example. But yeah, Joe Hamster picking up a 3-second time penalty there onto the soft tyres. He is pushing onto the back of F1 Richard here, and they have been fighting it out. I don't think I noticed it. Maybe they had a little bit of a position shuffle there, but he is staying 2 tenths behind him, very close to the back of F1 Richard, and of course he is on those fresh soft tyres. So it is looking a little bit easier for traction for him. He's getting quite a bit of time on the exit of the spoon curve, but being quite careful, using some of that overtake button here. Will we see a side-by-side through 130R? Not quite, because he gets the move done just before, but he will be trying to hog that curb there, being nice and respectful to the Mercedes driver behind, trying to leave him some room. And he's up into 6th position. So this race, well, I don't want to speak too soon, is slowly turning around for him. He is making his way up into 6th and slowly slicing his way through the grid. And he's now with the rest of the soft tyre runners. But, very impressively, I have to say, Nelly still leading the pack there in 1st position on those 12-lap old hard tyres. So he's keeping the soft tyre runners at bay behind him. His pace has been very impressive so far, and he's drove a good race. So hopefully, in a few laps, he can finish this up for us as TJW joins the lobby there. Perhaps he disconnected, that won't help him out too much there. Speaking of TJ, he is in 12th position. He'll be probably taking control of his car sometime soon. It's a bit of a nightmare when you get kicked out of these lobbies or disconnected. So we'll see if he can make his way back up the grid a little bit here. As you can see, his car becomes solid once again. So he is alive, and he has taken control of it. Getting a little bit friendly with that curb there at outside the exit of Spoon. Slightly lighting up his rear, but otherwise he is chasing down the Alpha Tauri ahead of him. So far, it's looking good for the McLaren drivers, who are in 8th and 2nd respectively. They're looking to be getting a lot of points. But not if Aldino has anything to say about it. He is on the medium tyres, and he is chasing down Tin Man Z, putting the pressure on him a little bit here. He's also had a good drive today. So far in the points, it will be interesting to see if he can make his way up a little further. Maybe get a few more points for Renault after his teammate retired, unfortunately, there. Just on the exit of Spoon. But this is the closest battle so far on track, other than TJ. So he's getting nice and close to Tin Man Z. He might be making a move a little bit later on. And Prezi, behind him, will be looking at this, and he'll be liking this look at this very much, because two drivers fighting will hopefully allow them to close in a little bit, maybe take advantage of their DRS, and then maybe get past them or negate the effect of that time penalty he's got. Valentino choosing to stick behind Tin Man Z for the moment, so maybe we'll see him make a move sometime soon, perhaps in the DRS straight here. Let's see if he can get a good exit out of the Casio triangle, trying to use up all of that space there, getting a nice exit there. He will have DRS onto Tin Man Z, so we'll see, but he's not gaining too much. He's not too keen on making the move yet, perhaps waiting a little bit. He's still got a tiny bit of time left in the race before it finishes off to try and make that move. TJ now, who's rejoined the race quite recently, is onto the back of Daryl, getting nice and close as well, and they are on fairly equal conditions tyre-wise, so they are fairly equally matched, and Daryl, they're going a little bit wide outside of the Dunlop curve, so TJ perhaps catching up to him soon as well, and making that move. Doiji, he went onto the soft tyres just at the end there, is still trying to go for that fastest lap there, I believe, and he is towards the back of the grid there, so yeah, not an amazing result for him so far, but maybe he can get that fastest lap, and maybe he can do something about it there. But so far, the grid is settling in at the front end. We still have a few more battles here. Aldino and Joe Hamster getting close to some of the drivers here. We start the final lap of the Japanese Grand Prix, and Joe Hamster looking very optimistic there, almost going into the back of Racing Tej, but sticking close behind him. He's running out of opportunities to overtake as the lap progresses, so he might have to get the move done quite soon. But he's really trying to maximise and use all of that space there in Japan. He is on slightly fresher soft tyres, and he's all over the back of Racing Tej now. Lost that battle. Yes, it will be a battle, but not too much of a battle. Racing Tej does learn by, and Joe Hamster takes that position, says thank you very much, and touches the gravel a little bit there, perhaps a way of saying thank you to Racing Tej there. But he is up into 5th position. He does, of course, have a penalty, so Racing Tej perhaps feeling that he doesn't have to fight that one there. He can afford to let him by. Oh, he gets a little bit too loose rear end wise through the last turn there at the spoon curve, and loses a little bit of time there as Nelly crosses the line to take his first ever victory at IRL at his debut race. So very impressive from Nelly there. O'Steven coming in 2nd place on the soft tyres there. Great points for McLaren tonight. And Eric Pancakes in 3rd on the soft tyres as well. Couldn't quite manage to close the gap to O'Steven, but still making it nicely onto the podium. So Spud finds himself in 4th position. Racing Tej in 5th there, finishing on the soft tyres. F1 Richard managed to stretch out those medium tyres to 20 laps just about, so good job from him tonight, and he's in 6th position. No shuffle ups in the order there apart from penalties, so yeah, a rather chaotic, quite action packed race. Not too chaotic, but we did have our fair share of safety cars today, so the F4 drivers are providing us with that little bit of action tonight. Don't go just yet, it's not quite all over. We still have some interviews to take from the podium finishers if they join the party, so hopefully we can get some of their opinions onto the race there. But yes, a very good race for Nelly there in the Alfa Romeo, his debut drive for IRL. And yeah, he's found himself nicely up onto the podium there. Yeah. Wow, what a race for him. He must be very elated with his performance there tonight. He really tried to, he really managed to keep his head cool while some of the drivers around him were losing theirs, as we saw. So yes, Nelly taking first there, his debut win for Alfa Romeo. O'Stephen in second, with Eric Pancakes in third and Surspud in fourth. Racing Tej in fifth, F1 Richard in sixth, with Tin Man Z in seventh. Aldunu in eighth, Joe Hamster in ninth, and Prezi Boy in 10th to round off the top 10. Then we have Daryl Whiffen in 11th, TJ in 12th, Doiji in 13th, with Tennis Optional in 14th, Ronanosaurus in 15th, and then the two retirees for with Craig and Towley in 16th and 17th. I asked the podium finishers to have their marks muted for the moment, while I just get everything sorted out here. And I will come back to you in a little bit. I also remind you to have your voices set to share in your party settings to make sure that everyone can hear you on the stream there. We'll wait a little bit to see if we get someone else joining the party from the podium. But we'll otherwise start the interviews in just a second. So bear with me 1 minute, gentlemen. I think we have all of the podium finishers there. I would like to, of course, start with Nelly, who finished in P1 today. Nelly, it was your debut race day at IRL, and you managed to get P1. And that is very impressive for your first ever race for this league. It seemed that you were able to keep your head cool around the track. Well, there were a few incidents, safety cars, and that is ultimately what got you your first place. So what was your take on the race? Nice, good job there tonight. Yeah, very impressive, like I said. So hopefully we'll see some more good results from you today. Next track is Monza for you. So how are you looking forward to Monza? Are you looking forward to it? And what are your thoughts on that? Nice. Well, a very nice race from you tonight, and you provided quite the show, so well done on your debut. A rather impressive result from you today. In second position, we have O'Stephen, I believe, for the McLaren there. Yes, so good job there from you today. So some good points from McLaren. And looking at the championship, you've obviously made your way back into it, and a good points haul for both of the McLaren drivers tonight, actually. So making your way up nicely in the constructors. Renault ahead of you, of course, you had the same amount of points as them going into the race. But are you looking hopeful for the constructors championship tonight?
We were helped with Brennan's not racing tonight, which was unfortunate for Mercedes, but yeah, it was looking good qualifying wise. It didn't look very good with, I think we finished 11th and 12th in qualifying, so then the start of the race, the safety car helped us majorly out, and I think early on Tin Man lost it, I think, in the S's, so he had to pit, so a good recovery drive from him, and I just couldn't catch Nelly at the end there. He was just guiding it home, to be honest.
Yeah, he was doing a really good job there in first position, but you did equally well to try and to make it home there on the podium. So yeah, good alternate strategy from you as well. So you said the safety car helped you out. How did it help you out tonight?
It helped out in terms of tyre wear and stuff like that and the virtual safety car as well was the lap I was coming in on anyway, so that worked out perfectly. Just to have that extra couple of seconds that I needed to just keep everyone behind, and then Joe Hamster had 9 seconds worth of penalties, and then he pitted. So yeah, P2, and then I just tried my hardest to try and close the gap to Nelly, but it just stayed at 2 seconds from about 5 or 6 seconds, so I just couldn't do any more. I just didn't want to burn the tyres out or get a flat tyre on the last lap or something, so I just took it easy on the last lap.
Cool. Yeah, good drive from you tonight though, good points haul from McLaren, and I wish you all the best in the Constructors. And now coming on to the Racing Point driver, Eric, yeah, I mean, how was the race for you tonight?
It was a disaster. A disaster. The first rounds, I depleted my ERS. Then with the pit stop, something went wrong. The second pit stop I had to take, something went completely wrong. My people were still not standing ready, so I lost, I think, around 25 seconds. It was a complete disaster, and at the end I saw that the driver in front of me, can't remember who it was, had a 3-second penalty in the last 2 laps, and I thought I'm just gonna give it all and see if I can bring it home to be on the podium at least. That I did in, I think, a few tenths.
Yeah.
So it was a very emotional race.
Yeah, good job there. I mean, you did get it on pole in qualifying, so well done for that. And you drove a pretty solid race to recover there. A lot of chaos today in general. So quite a few drivers were spinning out a little bit. We had a few retirements, a few close battles as well. Do you remember any close battles from tonight that you had?
Yeah, I had quite some nice overtakes actually. I sometimes had to wait here and there for the mistake for the other driver so that I could pass. Who it was, I can't remember actually. Yeah, that's all a blur. Since I was so emotional about this pit stop where I just lost 25 seconds.
Yeah, but yeah, no, good job from you tonight. And good job from all of you tonight to make it on the podium. Always a little bit of a challenge to be the best of your level. Yeah, it's great to see you guys on the podium. And thank you always, as always, for a great race this evening. I'm sure you kept the viewers on their toes and you gave them a good show tonight. So, from myself, thank you very much for watching tonight. I hope you enjoyed the race as much as I did. Don't forget to leave a like on the live stream, subscribe to Invictus Racing League to make sure you stay up to date with all of our future content. Tomorrow, the realistic performance drivers take to the track for the final time to finish off our visit to Japan. So do make sure you tune in for that if you're interested. Follow us on Twitter at InvictusRL and on Instagram and Facebook where we are Invictus Racing League. To stay up to date with everything at Invictus. From myself and everyone here at Formula 4, good evening and good night.